Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to first introduce our panel, and then we'll give a brief introduction to the topic, and then we'll get into a very dynamic discussion with these distinguished panelists. First, we have Ms. Rosa Harris, who is Director of the Department of Tourism of the Cayman Islands. Welcome, Rosa. Let's give Rosa a round of applause. We also have Mr. Eduardo Gomez, who is Regional Director of Sernatur for Los Lagos region, which is just north of us here in Chile. Ms. Beatriz Barreal, who is not only a board member of GSTC, but also is the founder and general manager of Sustainable Riviera Maya from Riviera Maya, Mexico. Thank you. Mr. Dawson Ramsden, who is Ecotourism Marketing Executive for the Botswana Tourism Organization, all the way from Botswana. And lastly, Tamara Ullrich, who is a board member of ZOIT, which is Zona, which you've heard a lot about, Zona de Interés Turístico, a nationwide program in Chile for systemic guidance for tourism development throughout Chile. A number of destinations that have been working with the criteria for a number of years now, and we're very thrilled. Thank you very much for joining us from all over the world. I just want to give a brief overview of the criteria, of some of the topics that we'll be discussing specifically related to the criteria, because there are many, so we need to be pretty targeted. But as you know, the GSTC destinations criteria are essentially the recipe for how to improve sustainable development of destinations worldwide. And importantly, just want to mention that they are holistically focused. You've heard a lot of discussion about this and how we've developed the GSTC standards over the years, but the four main areas that the criteria cover, which are the same areas that the business criteria for hotels and tour operators cover, are of course overall destination management, as well as social and economic benefits from tourism to be kept and held and retained within the destination. Preservation and, importantly, incorporation of local culture, heritage, and sense of place into the tourism experience. And then, of course, lastly, environmental sustainability. Now, these are just some examples on the screen now of some policy areas that the many, almost 100 destination criteria cover. Everything from governance and overall planning to engagement and involvement of the public in decision-making to very importantly, resident satisfaction, not just visitor satisfaction, safety and security, access for all, not just those with disabilities, but those who have strollers, maybe parents, just making the destination available and its sites available for everyone. Consumer protection, we've heard a lot about greenwashing or green hushing, truth in advertising, all these different areas. I won't even enumerate, there's so many, but just want to give some examples of how GSTC works with destinations. We partner very strategically with destinations. We are working very closely with these destinations and with some of you as well, and many others throughout the world, to help guide destinations in adopting the GSTC framework strategically to guide your own decision-making and practices within your destinations, not just government, but working with your private sector and systematically working on destination sustainability. Now, the way we do this is a few primary methods. One is GSTC conducts destination sustainability assessments to help destinations understand their policies and practices and how they currently stack up or are doing against the world's leading sustainability standard for destinations. Every one of these destinations either already has or is about to undergo a destination assessment by GSTC, which has helped the destinations understand a path forward for improving destination sustainability and work with their private sector. Now, we also conduct destination training. So we have a training program. We can, for any type of audience, for businesses, for government leaders, for a mix of stakeholders, conduct destination trainings. You've heard about that as well. And we also are working very closely with destinations on adopting sustainability standards. Randy mentioned this morning, others have as well, really working to take this to scale, nationwide or destination-wide, both working with hotels and tour operators to systematize sustainability practices, but also some destinations are adopting this for destinations within their countries or boundaries to work with at the destination level, similar to what Chile is doing with ZOIT, working strategically with destinations on adopting the destination criteria. A few examples. One of the major criteria that we recommend, it's in the first sustainability management section of the criteria, is establishing a destination management organization, sometimes called a destination stewardship council. And I'm giving examples from this group because they're here to help us learn more about this, and many of you know about it as well. But Riviera Maya in Mexico is a good example of a destination stewardship council that's been in existence now for a few years. This idea of establishing a stewardship council and involving, importantly, private sector as well as public sector in management of the destination is a relatively new concept in this area that we call sustainable tourism development. But since the destination criteria were established now about 5 years ago, we do have some data. We have some good examples of destinations that are strategically following the criteria and establishing what we recommend, including a destination management organization. So we'll be speaking with Beatriz about this. Secondly, of course, destination strategic planning. This is something that, is something that destinations throughout the world do, establish plans, but we recommend that the plan for the destination incorporate the aspects of sustainable destination management directly into the regular tourism planning process, so that inherently in development and the strategic plans for growth of tourism in the destination, the aspects of what we call sustainability are already just regular course of business and embedded in that planning process. We also recommend that that planning process be conducted with public participation that's meaningful and inclusive, and that specific indicators are actually set up so that the destination can monitor progress, not just through traditional means such as numbers of tourists or revenue spent within the destination, but looking at new ways to measure, such as the quality of the visitation and how many dollars are actually retained by the destination as opposed to leaking out. Not just how much money was spent, but how much is the destination actually benefiting from those dollars. And the Cayman Islands, Rosa Harris is with us, going to be speaking about how the Cayman Islands has been using the GSTC criteria, incorporating those learnings into their regular and very, regular and periodic strategic planning process for the destination. Sustainability standards, we're hearing a lot about how destinations like Chile with COS have been incorporating sustainability standards in their systemic working with the private sector, working with destinations within a country, really systematizing practices among all different participants in the destination so that everyone is operating from the same playbook and has the same recipe and is on the same page for how do we achieve sustainability within our context, all working together. Chile, of course, is a great example of this with COS. Already the COS for accommodations is recognized by GSTC. They also have their tour operator standard, COS, and are working very closely with GSTC to achieve the different milestones of GSTC distinction so that they can also have that international recognition and resonance. Even though it's a nationwide standard, they can very, very strongly appeal to international markets to attract them, and everyone can be looking for the GSTC logo when choosing their travel options once they become accredited. Similarly, we're working with destinations nationwide who have standards for, as I mentioned, destinations within their country. So Indonesia is one example of how GSTC is working at scale with a country that has established a standard to guide their destination development using the GSTC criteria for destinations, and Indonesia's standard is now recognized by GSTC. They've very closely followed, just adopted the GSTC criteria and have set targets for destinations within Indonesia to develop based on directly the recommendations from the GSTC criteria, following that guidance for their development. Marketing, you just had a whole panel about this topic, and I won't really repeat, but basically the idea is that Randy mentioned how, using the term sustainability isn't necessary if you're actually doing the work and producing the kinds of results that visitors want to hear about. Rather than greenwashing, we're seeing a lot of destinations now, and Chile is a fantastic example, as well as Botswana, which are focused on the results of the practices and policies that the criteria set out, and rather are telling visitors stories about how they can connect with local people, local culture, and receive a great visitor experience that reflects that authenticity that people are looking for. You won't see the word sustainability a lot if you look at Chile's marketing materials, but you will see the kinds of experiences that people are looking for when they travel. Same with Botswana and many others that are following this trend. As I mentioned, GSTC conducts assessments of destinations. We actually have a program. We will work with you to identify your stakeholders, identify your policy documents that you currently have in place, and we'll analyze those. An expert from GSTC will analyze your policies and put together an itinerary. We'll come out and do an on-site engagement with your stakeholders and understand how your policies are implemented, so that at the end of the assessment, the evaluation, you can understand where you currently stand with respect to the Global Sustainable Tourism Council's criteria. We give recommendations for how you can address some of the risk areas that you currently are facing and can improve the sustainable development of your destinations. We've conducted over 20 destination assessments so far in all areas of the world, across almost all continents. Every one of these destination representatives here was involved in their destination assessment, and you can see in red their destinations are represented, and we really are very open. If you're interested in speaking with us about assessment, we're more than happy to connect with you, as well as about other ways that we can partner to advise you and help you to figure out what next steps could be best for you to incorporate the GSTC's tools, the standards, and practices into your development, including training, assessment, and strategic thinking with you about how you can use and use the criteria in your development. Now, I want to encourage you all to go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, become a member of GSTC so that you're receiving information from us on a regular basis. Most of you probably are members, hence you're here or are interested in that. But one aspect in particular that I want to highlight is that the GSTC destinations criteria will be updated shortly. We regularly follow ICEAL procedures as a standard-setting body and update the standards from time to time to make sure that they reflect the realities of the marketplace and are consistent with best practice for that moment. Now, we have not yet conducted a revision of the criteria. The destinations criteria were issued in 2013, And so they're up for revision soon. We are currently undergoing a consultation process with stakeholders. You're all stakeholders of us because you have experience and input into what the standards say. So we will be encouraging you to stay tuned. You will, if you're signed up with us to receive our notices, you'll get a word that we are considering when we should update the standard, and once we do, we really would like your input. Please file comments with us. There will be instructions for how to do that. But the standards are only as good and as relevant as your input. We've consulted thousands and thousands of stakeholders when we set the standard back a few years ago, and we'll be also interested in as many views as we can when we revise it coming up. So stay tuned for that. Please all participate in that comment process when we issue the notice of the comment period, and we really appreciate your views. So please connect with us. I do not want to stand any longer between us and the panel, but here's my contact information. Please feel free to connect with me. You'll see me around as well, but I'd really like to, that's the only presentation here. I really want to keep this discussion engaging for us, so you'll have the chance to ask some questions at the end of the session, but let's get right into some discussion with our panelists. All right, well, as I mentioned, each one of these distinguished managers of their destination has already engaged with the criteria in a very meaningful way. All except one, so Aysen, this region that we're in right now, is about to undergo a GSTC destination assessment in October. So this is forthcoming, and all of the other destinations have experienced a destination assessment. So we're very thrilled. Thank you very much for coming all this way. And we want to get right into some discussion. So I want to begin with Beatriz. There's a microphone right there for you, Beatriz. So Riviera Maya was one of the first destinations in the world. We had the group of 14 early adopters, as we called them, which participated in a pilot test of the destination criteria when we first developed the criteria. Now, Beatriz has been working long with GSTC as a board member, and Riviera Maya has been involved with sustainable development long before the criteria existed. But I want to speak with you a little bit, Beatriz, to begin about how, when you underwent the destination assessment as an early adopter, how did the assessment actually help you to identify the priorities and needs of Riviera Maya at that point in your development going forward? How did that serve as a roadmap for you to help understand next steps in your development as a sustainable destination?
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Well, actually, I don't think it was a roadmap, but more as a baseline. It was so clear for us to see the big red column in destination management. And it was clearly a need to set up a multi-stakeholder group to start something different. Because if you count it separately, we could count more than 200 processes or seals or certifications under separate enterprises and companies and hotels and tour operators, but not as a destination. So we were not being part of the planning of the destination. So after having a third part saying, hey, here is your big red column, we could start putting wheels in the same path, saying, okay, let's work for the common will. It's not only about I am very good because this is my circle and my comfort zone as a company, as an enterprise, as a restaurant, hotel, tour operator, and if I am doing okay with my certification, either rainforest or air check, but what is happening in the destination? And Riviera Maya, it's a sui generis case because it was really created due to the need of the tourism development. 44 years ago, even Quintana Roo was not an state. It was only a territory in Mexico. It hadn't the category of state. So 30 years ago or 35 years ago, Playa del Carmen had only 50 people living there. It was a fisherman village. So now we are 225 or 29,000 people living there. So it's a big challenge to understand how it did the growing up in the fastest growing rate in the whole Latin America. We had some years of more than 16% of growing in 1 year, and it's amazing to see how the living paradise, it's not paradise for everyone. And how many families are arriving to Playa del Carmen or to Tulum or Puerto Aventuras or Acumal thinking that they are going to live in paradise, and they ultimately are living in a 40 square meter house after they leave a 5-diamond hotel, those amazingly luxury rooms, those impressive buffet, and they arrive to their houses with no air conditioning, with a very warm weather, and that's not paradise for everyone. So having a third part saying, hey, you need a management for the destination, I think it was the really best part of being an early adopter. And from there, you can align wheels from both public and private sector, and also NGOs, and also Mayan communities, saying, hey, we need to work together. Maybe we will not get friends ever, but that doesn't matter. Let's work for the Commonwealth. And the Commonwealth has to do with love, and has to do with loving ourselves, knowing ourselves, also recognizing that we need to work on some areas, and it's not perfect. But if we work together, it will be easier. Mm-hmm. I think
That's fantastic. And so this need for collaboration in destination management, I've got another question right away for you, Beatriz. So this collaboration across sectors, and not just in tourism, but involving other industries and stakeholders, as well as civil society, as you mentioned, the community, government, private sector, not just in tourism. Could you tell us a little bit about how, over the last few years, you've been working on this for quite some time, how has that been for you, and how have you learned how to get all of these disparate, as you mentioned, maybe not friends, maybe not even liking each other, or maybe very difficult to work together. This aspect of collaborative management is so critical. And the GSTC criterion A2 recommends establishment of this destination management organization. As someone who's been working on this for some time, can you potentially share some insights, some tips, some learnings that you have drawn from your experience for those destinations that may be thinking about embarking on this journey and setting up a destination management council for stewardship? What tips would you give? What are some of the most important things that a destination should try to keep in mind and try to achieve when they're setting up this council and just starting from scratch on that?
From zero.
From zero.
Or less than zero.
Exactly.
I think that the most important thing is there has to be someone convinced that the Commonwealth, it's more important than my personal wealth. But you need to be very authentic on that. If it's something not for real, people will feel it. And at some point, it will be shown that you are looking for your own interest. So someone in the front should be very heart and mind together guided. It's not easy going with very successful businessmen and women saying, hey, we need to speak from the heart in Riviera Maya, and we need to give the opportunity to Mayan communities to give the authentic experiences that we are able to offer to visitors. And first, I think it's authenticity, tenacity. Tenacity, and we need to give everyone of the stakeholders, everyone and each one of them, something that they do believe, truly believe, that will get benefit out of it.
That makes a lot of sense. So every stakeholder needs to see the clear benefit of their participation across all sectors of the destination.
And as I said, tenacity, and a hard thing, financial area. How do we finance this council? Well, in Sustainable Riviera Maya, it has been kind of difficult, that area, but finally, as I was telling someone right now, I think that the most important thing that now I can say is that we are still alive. I don't know if it have happened a lot of things or not, but we are still alive. And now we are running for a certification process that has happened in nowhere else, like in Playa del Carmen will happen. And Stuart Moore from Ullrich in Australia is saying, well, I don't know how are we going to do this, but we are going to do that. Because it haven't happened yet anywhere else. The certification, the certified destinations in Mexico are like little spaces defined by the federal government, so everything is more controlled, if you can say that. But Playa del Carmen, it's a huge challenge, but I hope that this can be a lesson that can be shared with someone else around the planet, and to really improve the quality of life of residents in Playa del Carmen, in Riviera Maya, in Quintana Roo.
So the involvement and wide representation of stakeholders throughout all sectors and all areas of the economy, leadership, strong leadership, compassionate leadership, to really keep the continuity of the organization going across changes in government administration and the like. Can you just speak to a little, just briefly, because we want to move on, but the continuity that you have been able to maintain, as you mentioned, we're still alive, after how many changes in government after 3 changes in government? Can you just speak to the importance of the independence of the organization from government, and how you've set it up and how you've been able to withstand those 3 changes? How have you been able to achieve that continuity by that vigor of your private sector engagement?
First of all, you have to tell them that they are getting the stars. And they are, because they are allowing you to do that. And that's a big thing.
By they, you mean the government?
Yes. And on the other hand, if you engage them as a person, if you engage them at their hearts, because finally and ultimately, they are citizens as well.
Of course.
And they will be once again, they will be back into the citizen chair. And you need all of them. We all need each other to really, what I call, it's to form the final diamond that Riviera Maya is. But we need all of the targets that we are included in Riviera Maya. And giving them something to gain, I think it has been the real secret of saying, hey, if you do this, you will go into history saying you were the one that started this and allowed us, and you were part of this. And you will be part of this forever, because you as citizen will be keeping part of this.
And same with private sector as well, right? Keeping the motivation
Absolutely.
there, extremely
Absolutely.
important. Thank you. Now, we want to move on to the case of Botswana. Very briefly, another early adopter of the GSTC criteria has been a supporter of Botswana since the inception of GSTC. Now, Botswana, an early adopter from day one, really, coming on board, adopting the GSTC assessment, helping us to pilot test the criteria. We got very valuable feedback from destinations that underwent the assessment before the criteria were even launched. So, commend you for that commitment, as well as Riviera Maya. Can you just tell us, Dawson, a little bit about how the destination assessment, at your point in your development at that time, how did that help your destination to spot opportunities, guide your next steps when you were at that point in your development, already working on sustainability of your destination, but just getting this extra look according to this new set of criteria that had just emerged at that time?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Kathleen. I actually remember that trip I did with a colleague of mine, Richard, who I think everybody here knows very well, and Brian Mullis. Very good trip. We operate in very sensitive areas back home, and most of our tourism destinations back home operate in very sensitive areas. And we have always wanted to promote sustainability and eco practices to conserve these areas. And being an early adopter and with being one of the first destinations to adopt and to take this on, it has helped us a great deal in terms of mapping what we already had in place. It has given a lot of meat to the skeleton or the body that we had at the time, by also being recognized internationally. And we wanted it to basically beef up and to promote sustainability, not just within home, but also being associated or affiliated with GSTC internationally as well. So that is what we gained out of it. And we also saw, now we're seeing a lot more of our industry also wanting to be a part of it. They're putting in systems in place and calling us to say, this is what we've done, come and check it out, come and have a see, and we come in and we do this, and we grade them. And it's a long process, so they do it one step at a time, and they're very patient about it. I know my colleague as well, who does a lot of our grading. They're continuously running around. Sometimes they spend weeks on end where they can't even get flights. They have to go out in all their work vehicles because everybody's calling to say, come check out what I've done. And it's a big marketing tool, but not necessarily just that. It's now we're seeing a lot of sense of pride from the industry that this is what we're doing. We've come from a point when I used to work in these areas in private sector. We've come from a point where our back of house was hidden like a little shameful somebody at the back, where we now actually encourage guests to go and see. It's part of the activities now. And you can even see with areas that are not yet there, but they are, they're at that point where they are no longer ashamed or no longer afraid to say, come and have a look at what we're doing at back of house. So that is what it has really, being one of the first adopters really helped us with.
That's great. Now, of course, it's said that if people's own basic needs are not met, then it's difficult to motivate persons and businesses to really look out for the greater good of wildlife, for example, or nature, if you're struggling to make ends meet yourself. Now, of course, you do operate in one of the most biodiverse and beautiful natural areas in the world, the Okavango Delta. Can you share some insights and some updates about how you did work with the community to create ways for them to be meaningfully engaged and benefiting economically from tourism development, supporting businesses, supporting employment of local persons, to keep that revenue with them so that ultimately wildlife is preserved and conservation is incorporated into the ethos of the tourism experience and management of tourism? Just a little bit about how you're motivating and working with the community to really broaden the economic benefits so that you can achieve the great other results and preservation that makes your destination so special.
Well, through a lot of our management plans, the ODMP, for example, Okavango Delta Management Plan, the Makadi framework, all these management plans have incorporated into them that we need the expertise of and the input of the local populations in and around those areas. Obviously, you know, tourism started and there were a lot of communities that have lived in and around those areas. And like you were saying, you know, for you to have the best the best results is to have the buy-in of the communities. And quite often, you know, not just when we say communities, we're not talking just about everybody with a PhD or a doctorate, or, you know, we're talking the people on the ground, the people that have grown in, the people that will tell you they've seen a river flow in 79 and then it went out, and then, you know, the guys that know the history in their minds. So all these people, of course, with your learned PhD people, get affiliated into these management plans for advice, for input. And in so doing, that is one of the major steps, I think, which then leads to people having ownership of the areas that you want to develop or of the areas that you want to operate in. And I think as long as we have that sense of ownership of that area, from the communities that live in and around there, and not just ownership by feel, but also from benefits in terms of economic benefits, in terms of developments, obviously in line with what you're trying to do in those areas, then you will have a better result in terms of developing. We currently have associations like the Okavango Mokoro or the Polling Association, which has, you know, took like a duck to water when we, as a country, and as a country, we decided to start making mokoros, which are the dugout canoes, out of fiberglass. Because to make a traditional mokoro, you normally would chop a tree that is about 60 to 70 years old. And these are some of the trees that are quite, you know, they're quite big. And depending on the use of it, it'll last you between 6 and 10 years. And so imagine how many trees everybody would have to cut. But once that idea was sold to the communities to say, this is the situation, this is what we think we can do, let's sit down, let's talk about it. And we replicated the canoes, or we duplicated the canoes out of fiberglass to look exactly, have the exact feel, and last forever. And if it breaks, it's fiberglass, you can go patch it up. And everybody took to that and understood that. But the good thing about it, we still do have small pockets of communities that have been allowed to do this just to carry on tradition. And it's more for aesthetics than anything else. But if you look at the difference between how many trees were cut, if the Okavango Polling Association right now are using about between 20 to 30 fiberglass canoes to do their trips, obviously in different sections, if you think of how many jackalberries, how many murulas, how many figs that you would have to cut, and then in 5-10 years time again, or when demand grows, you have to go cut some more. So we definitely have had the buy-in of the community to a point where we are also now seeing communities in other parts of the country where they're coming to say, this is what we've got, how can we do it? You're the we want your expertise. A typical example is the camel project, or the camel project up in the desert area of the country in Zabong, where we've got close to about 300 to 400 camels. And these camels were used during the colonial era as a transport for law enforcement. But with roads developments and everything, obviously they became obsolete. and they were now just roaming and at the risk of becoming feral. So the community came and said, we've got these camels, we don't want to kill them. What do we do? And we have come up with an ecotourism park that now offers camel rides, camel milk, camping activities, and that's what and we're seeing good results out of that.
So that was really a community-driven
Very much so.
experience.
Very much,
Yep.
Yeah.
So the marketing, you're very integral to the ecotourism marketing executive, to the marketing of Botswana. Now, I don't see the word sustainability on your homepage, even though Botswana tourism just won, for example, among many other awards, the World Travel and Tourism Council's last Sustainable Destination Award, and that's the second time. The previous one was a few years before, but multiple award winner from WTTC alone. But could you speak a little bit to the approach to your marketing and how you decide to communicate about your experience without necessarily explicitly talking about how you've gotten there and the practices and sustainability and responsibility, but still you communicate what a fantastic result you've been able to achieve from all that hard work.
I was going to say, is that green hashing?
Maybe green hushing, I won't use that word, but it is clearly an example, I believe, of green hushing.
Okay. Thanks again. Let me just say that this current award that we won was the second time, and going back to the first question, the first one was just based on the Okavango Delta itself. This one now, we've grown from just the Okavango Delta to the Chobe area and the Makadikadi. And again, it just shows because a lot of the criteria or the system that we used or what we used to get the awards was based on what we got from GSTC. So when the judges came, that is what we used to get those awards, and we're very, very proud of it. We would like to think we are marketing, but obviously you've made an observation, Kathleen. I don't know. We have a saying in my language which goes, I hope the translator will translate for you. But basically it means ideas and advice is like bark, it is stripped from other people or other experts. So on that note, we attend quite a lot of, or we are present, whether be it physical or through media, quite a lot of the sustainable bodies in and around, whether be it international or regionally. We are currently working on our website, which had crashed, was actually hacked. I don't know why anybody would want to hack a Botswana tourism website, but it was, and we are currently working on taking it up again and improving it, and that is something that we will make a note of. Like you said earlier, our idea of being sustainable and eco-friendly has a lot more to do with just being out there, because as I said, we operate in very sensitive areas, and it is up to us to basically look after that at all costs. So I guess sometimes we forget that we could actually get mileage out of saying this is what we're doing, and we concentrate more on saying check what we've done and check what we've got. So we definitely will take advice on that and take it from there.
Thank you, Dawson. Moving to the Cayman Islands next. So the Cayman Islands is one of our newer adopters, as we won't call you that officially, but Cayman Islands underwent a GSTC destination assessment in 2015. And I wanted to ask just an open-ended question about, for the Cayman Islands, just to orient us a little bit, what are some of the main priority areas in terms of your sustainable development that you're focused on at this point?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Kathleen. The Cayman Islands, I should put it in context for everyone. We're in the Caribbean, Western Caribbean, and we are a three-island nation. But very distinctly different, the three islands. One is 10 square miles, that's Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac is 14 square miles. And where most people live in Grand Cayman is 76 square miles. So as you can imagine, it's very interesting and a complex task to manage our tourism industry overall. And the reason why we undertook this exercise was that we realized that every island deserved a different type of approach. And in engaging that, some of our priorities were to ensure that we could encourage sustainable practices and that it was prioritized not just the business aspect of tourism, but ensuring that we were sensitive to our natural environment. The two pillars of the Cayman Islands is finance, which we are probably more known for, and also tourism. So we realize that we are benefiting from our wonderful natural landscapes that we operate in. We also encourage tourism careers, so human capital development and getting more Caymanians. We call ourselves Caymanians in the Cayman Islands. Encouraging more young Caymanians in the tourism industry is of the highest importance. Of course, that's sustainability for future generations to promote that as a career. In addition, to be able to protect and put in policies that have sensitivity to our marine environment. We're known for diving, our natural environment, the beaches, the marshlands that are across all three islands that have very special species of birds, etc. In addition to that, to ensure that everyone who wants to participate in tourism has an avenue to enter tourism. So we are very well known for large brands, and we are wanting to pursue avenues for Caymanians to have a greater role in our tourism industry. Those are some of our priorities.
That's great. And so, of course, Cayman Islands is an extremely well-developed tourism destination. One of the best-known brands in terms of just research shows, recognition of travelers, very familiar with the Cayman Islands as a brand. And you approached GSTC and started engaging with the GSTC criteria at a very specific time in your development and in your cycle of your tourism planning process. About to update your tourism planning process, you decided to undergo a GSTC assessment. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've been able to use the findings from the assessment to inform your broader tourism planning and where you're going with that?
I'm so proud to say that our government, in their larger strategic policy statement, in their #1 broad outcome, our national tourism plan is listed as a second bullet point in the broad outcomes, which means that tourism has been prioritized for this government. And in saying that, the GSTC was engaged 2 years ago, but we did have a national tourism management plan that was incepted in 2003. However, it proved difficult to continue with partnership, intergovernment, as well as private sector. So we decided to get a baseline because we had seen significant growth. Between the years of 2013 and 2016, we had some double-digit growth, and we realized that our points of entry were strained. We're very well known for cruise, but also our air arrivals were increasing. And we wanted to understand the full facets of what was going on present day in our tourism industry. That's why we engaged the GSTC. That underpinned our request for proposal to engage a consultancy firm to help us introduce our national tourism plan, which is what's recognized in 2017 by the current government. We have a plan to have a collaborative committee that includes private sector and public sector. in the drafting of the National Tourism Plan, we consulted private sector heavily across all 3 islands. And I started, commentary today regarding how distinctly different all 3 islands are. They all have different priorities. So just to share a little bit, our Little Cayman wants to be preserved. The goal is to go off the grid and truly green Little Cayman. Cayman Brac, which is the middle island with about 2,000 persons living on the island, we want to be able to stimulate demand and economic development in Cayman Brac, but that in a sustainable way. So Cayman Brac is known for its caves, hiking, beautiful terrain that is somewhat undiscovered. So being able to propel the Cayman Brac brand to the world. At the moment we have rock climbing going on, but it kind of started organically without even stimulating the demand. So there's a diamond in the rough for Cayman Brac. And when we look at Grand Cayman being the most developed and most well-known, some people say Grand Cayman Islands, thinking that, Grand Cayman is the only island within the Cayman Islands, but it is the most developed, and we have very large properties there. But what we've also seen is that we're known for the 7 Mile Beach, and most of our tourism activity takes place there. We want to be able to spread the tourism traffic and development to other areas of the island to be able to manage the footprint on Grand Cayman, which is a more mature environment, and it will prove the most difficult. So in looking at all of those considerations, the criteria assessment really helped us to hone in on the areas that were weaker. That's destination management, being able to manage the volume, cultural engagement with our heritage sites and our people, and just overall having a vision for tourism. There's some things that have happened in the last 2 years. The overall government has implemented a cultural and heritage policy, as well as an energy policy. And now with the National Tourism Plan, we've really seen some vision behind managing the overall country. But of course, there's lots to do. But that's my long-winded response to the fact that if we didn't do the baseline, we wouldn't have known what the areas, the priority areas were, to really be able to draft a plan that could help us see significant gains in managing our nation better.
Thank you so much, Rosa, and really commend you all for recognizing that you wanted to take these steps to understand, in connection with destinations throughout the world, that we're doing the same thing, as diverse as you all are. So moving also to right next to you, Lago Llanquihue. So Eduardo Gomez, Regional Director from Los Lagos here in Chile. Lago Llanquihue, another early adopter of the criteria. Eduardo, I want to ask you just first and foremost, you underwent the assessment 5 years ago as Lago Llanquihue. I know we're not actually in that role as director 5 years ago, but you have made the commendable step of deciding now to undergo a follow-up assessment. So 5 years ago, Lago Llanquihue had a destination sustainability assessment. Now, 5 years later, has decided to work with GSTC again to revisit Lago Llanquihue, the destination, to see what progress has been made in implementing the criteria, and look at now what are the priorities based on this baseline, revisited baseline, going forward. So I wanted to ask you if you could share some of the thinking behind why you decided to do this follow-up assessment, and what you're hoping to gain from it and use the recommendations going forward.
Bien, Kathleen, gracias por la oportunidad y la invitación, ¿verdad? Buenas tardes a todos. Efectivamente, tú has dicho algo que es muy importante. Yo voy a contar una historia tratando de interpretar a un sinnúmero de profesionales que han permitido que este destino del lago Yanquihue y Todos los Santos se haya medido con los criterios del GSTC en el 2013 y hoy día estemos pudiendo compararnos para saber si efectivamente avanzamos, retrocedimos o nos estancamos en los criterios de sustentabilidad. Hay varios elementos, algunos pertenecen probablemente al ámbito interno de los profesionales públicos y también de los empresarios de este destino, y otros pertenecen al entorno, al externo, ¿verdad? Al ámbito externo de este destino. En lo interno yo creo que nos mueve el hecho de que este destino está consolidado, ¿verdad? Es un destino reconocido, es un destino que tiene una ocupabilidad alta, con algunas variaciones en invierno, pero que requiere entonces diferenciarse de otros destinos para mantener la ocupación, la llegada de visitantes o probablemente aumentar el gasto o la estadía. Entonces, uno de los elementos para diferenciarse que son los mismos empresarios nos han hecho entender que es el camino, es la de la sustentabilidad. Podríamos también haber partido por la diversidad de experiencias, el desarrollo del destino, y lo estamos haciendo en paralelo, pero la sustentabilidad ha sido aquel elemento que transversalmente une a todos en el desarrollo o en el crecimiento de este destino. Ese es uno de los factores internos que hemos identificado. El otro también tiene que ver con que esta tendencia mundial nos motiva a todos a trabajar. Es decir, todos queremos ser parte de un destino sustentable, pues probablemente si no lo hacemos así estaremos haciendo las cosas de un modo que no es el correcto, y eso es muy interno, pero es muy motivador, ¿verdad? Y cuando uno empieza entonces a conversar de esto se encuentra con esta fuerza empresarial, que yo creo que es el punto más importante de los internos que te quiero mencionar, que intenciona a los servidores públicos como yo a hacer de la sustentabilidad aquel elemento transversal, real, que nos va a permitir entonces volver a posicionarnos, ganar más visitaciones o tener mayor gasto o visitantes de mayor gasto que se queden más tiempo. En lo externo, y quiero mencionarlo, en el 2013 se dio una oportunidad para nosotros, es decir, justo cuando nosotros estábamos con esta intención de medir la sustentabilidad en el destino, ustedes como GSTC necesitaban validar sus criterios de sustentabilidad. Y también en el ámbito externo se había desarrollado hace muy poco la Estrategia Nacional de Desarrollo Turístico 2012 al 2020. O sea, había un entorno favorable hacia nuestras intenciones. Entonces, nosotros nos sentimos muy afortunados, ¿verdad?, de estas coincidencias que nos iban a permitir a nosotros lograr la medición en el 2013. Y ganaban ustedes como GSTC y ganábamos nosotros como destino de la región de los lagos, porque justo además ustedes estaban implementando el programa de Early Adopters. Entonces fue un ganar-ganar. Hoy día estamos con esta misma mentalidad, ¿verdad?, de poder compararlos, de decir efectivamente cuánto hemos avanzado, cuánto hemos retrocedido. Es muy bueno compararse, mirarse frente al espejo y ver qué es lo que ha pasado. Esa ha sido la motivación principal. Obviamente en el camino los empresarios también, de modo individual y con el impulso del gobierno, han ido avanzando cada vez más en obtener distinciones de sustentabilidad, de calidad y de trabajar en un sinnúmero de líneas que permiten entonces que nosotros como destino Lago Yanquihue y Todos los Santos seamos el destino con mayor cantidad de distinciones de sustentabilidad y de calidad en los primeros niveles del país. Entonces hay que estar ahí, nosotros como público tenemos que responder a las necesidades de nuestros empresarios para que entre todos hagamos de ese destino y ojalá de otros destinos de la región y del país destinos sustentables.
Well, this is the first follow-up destination assessment that GSTC would have conducted, and so we look forward to seeing the progress. We've, of course, kept in touch with the other destinations to follow informally, but this will be a valuable exercise, and it's been enough time has passed that we'll be able to see, you know, how the criteria have been implemented, and I look forward to that in the next couple of days. Actually, just following the conference, we'll be conducting that follow-up assessment. Now, I want to ask you, Eduardo, about one aspect in particular. Of course, COS, Chile's standard for hotels, sustainability of hotels and other accommodations. Lago Llanquihue is the destination in Chile that has the most certified hotels by COS or accommodations. So I want to just ask you, how did you achieve that? And in particular, were there incentives or other enticements that you offered to private sector to be able to motivate that kind of involvement with COS? How did you achieve that?
Ok. Bueno, no solo tenemos alojamientos distinguidos en COS, sino que también tour operadores distinguidos en COS. De hecho, el tour operador de Chile con mayor distinción de sustentabilidad también está en el lago Llanquihue y está entre nosotros hoy día, de modo que es un orgullo. La principal motivación, y esto no hay que negarlo, yo ya lo he citado, viene de los propios empresarios que han visto o han visionado a la sustentabilidad como aquel elemento diferenciador. Yo creo que nuestro mayor desafío, hago un paréntesis, nuestro mayor desafío en el destino es hacer que el destino asociativamente, colaborativamente, pueda ser el más sustentable de Chile y uno pudiese seguir soñando. Porque efectivamente, probablemente el trabajo sencillo, tú también lo señalabas, sea el trabajo individual, pero el colectivo es el más interesante, el más importante para que verdaderamente la actividad turística se vea fortalecida o potenciada. Dado el interés natural que había en nuestro destino, para nosotros ha sido, yo creo que más sencillo, ¿verdad?, que nuestros empresarios nos permitan tener la mayor cantidad de distinciones de sustentabilidad en el destino y, como te señalaba, también de calidad. A eso ha habido un constante direccionamiento, lineamiento de las entidades gubernamentales a cargo del turismo por alinearse con estos prestadores de servicios y entregarle los elementos, los instrumentos y los beneficios para que ellos vean en los sellos de distinción o los sellos de calidad una oportunidad para posicionarse mejor en el mercado o para diferenciarse. A modo de beneficios, hay un sinnúmero de estrategias que ha seguido nuestra institucionalidad, nuestros servicios. Yo creo que el principal, una vez que ya hemos aprendido que es muy importante hacer este match entre los beneficios y la distinción, es que todo quien tenga un sello de sustentabilidad tiene beneficios en la promoción. Ellos son puestos en el primer nivel de promoción en cada una de los websites de nuestro país, sean estos los específicos de sustentabilidad o aquellos de promoción del país. Cada vez que una consulta recibimos en nuestras oficinas de información turística, sea desde la más pequeña oficina hasta la más importante, probablemente en la capital, por el número de visitas que recibe, y nos consulta sobre qué lugares visitar, dónde alojarse o qué tour operador usar, bueno, serán recomendados aquellos que tienen el sello de distinción en sustentabilidad y de calidad. Hay entonces una estrategia ahí de que la promoción se haga a través de estos elementos. Por supuesto, además, si ellos van o quieren ir a alguna feria junto a nosotros, son seleccionados en primera prioridad por tener sus sellos de calidad y sustentabilidad y adicionalmente se han adherido a eso descuentos en la participación de las ferias. Antiguamente esto no existía, son temas que hemos ido incorporando ahora con el aprendizaje y el andar en esta tarea. Tengo una lista acá de beneficios. Espérame, se me olvidó. Cuando nuestros prestadores de servicios que tienen sello de calidad o de sustentabilidad pensaron en venir a este encuentro, también tienen un descuento especial, ¿verdad? De modo que ellos sientan no solo que el mercado los favorece, sino que también la institucionalidad los favorece. Cuando nuestros importantes programas de turismo social se desarrollan y deben ellos presentar sus ofertas para ser seleccionados como para dar el servicio de los programas de vacaciones tercera edad o giro de estudio, la institucionalidad ha colocado un criterio de selección de esas empresas cuando, en el sentido de favorecerlos, cuando los prestadores de servicios que involucran en esa prestación tienen sello de calidad o de sustentabilidad. De modo que estamos cerrando el círculo, ¿verdad?, entre tener el sello y estos beneficios, de modo que se vean verdaderamente favorecidos. Y hay un beneficio, creo yo, que sobrepasa todo esto y tiene que ver con el orgullo personal y de un destino de contar con estos prestadores de servicios que están dando una señal muy clara al mundo respecto de cómo hay que hacer las cosas. Yo creo que ahí está la motivación y eso es superior a cualquier beneficio que la institucionalidad o ellos mismos puedan ver. Eso es muy importante.
Excellent. Now, turning lastly to Tamara, who is here in Aysen and on the board of ZOIT, which you've been working for some time now on systemic development of destinations here in Aysen. And as of earlier this year, sustainability is explicitly now to be included in the tourism planning process within ZOIT's mission. So I wanted to ask you about the Aysen destination assessment that's about to happen. How do you foresee using the results of the destination assessment of Cchellenko in the tourism planning process for Cchellenko as part of ZOIT?
In Spanish.
Sí, en Spanish.
Bueno, buenas tardes, muchas gracias por estar acá. Es una oportunidad para nosotros como territorio poder acceder al diagnóstico que el GSTC va a realizar en octubre de este año, ya que viene a complementar un trabajo que desde hace mucho tiempo venimos realizando como territorio, queriendo realizar como territorio, dado que en realidad, más que el territorio ZOIT, en realidad la región de Aysen tiene un lema que hace muchos años nos inundó, nos inspiró a muchos, que es Aysen Reserva de Vida, y que es una tarea de todos y que de alguna manera muchos de los habitantes, la mayor parte de los habitantes, incluso se ha plasmado en las políticas regionales, es el lema que nos lleva y nos mueve en esta región, porque en realidad la sustentabilidad es como parte de nosotros, de la manera de vivir, de la gente que llegó por primera vez en esta región hace no muchos años. En realidad somos, como decía Karina, nuestra intendenta, somos una región muy joven. Entonces aún conservamos modos de vida que aún no se pierden y que en realidad hoy queremos mantener. Entonces, los criterios de sustentabilidad para el destino, en este caso Aysen, que yo en realidad considero que ZOIT, Aysen debería ser ZOIT como completa, sin embargo la gestión territorial se complejiza. Nosotros, bueno, en este plan de ZOIT que hemos estado trabajando ya hace un año como nuevo proceso, porque en realidad fuimos declarados ZOIT Cchellenko desde el año 92. Ha pasado como todos los procesos en muchos lugares, yo creo, por alto y por bajo. Hay que tener tenacidad, como dice Beatriz, perseverancia, tener el foco claro, los sueños siempre presentes para poder llevarlos adelante. Y bueno, hoy es un apoyo grandísimo poder tener esta herramienta en realidad que nos va a permitir ver un poco cómo estamos, tener una línea base, como bien han dicho los compañeros acá, para saber en qué estamos, tener una metodología en realidad de cómo medir nuestra sustentabilidad, adicionarles cosas, digamos, a estos criterios que nos puedan mejorar. Y bueno, en el plan de acción que hemos elaborado están insertos muchos los criterios que el GSTC tiene considerados para los destinos, tales como, no sé, tener conciencia turística, implementar distintos aspectos en la educación, la conciencia en general. En realidad hay que partir por la conciencia y lo principal es la gobernanza, que es un punto primero en el cual tenemos que trabajar.
Now, two specific aspects in particular that I want to ask you about, and then we'll open up for a few questions. The first is, I know that as a young destination, you are very wary and looking to avoid the pitfalls of overcrowding and mass tourism. You want to manage that carefully. Now, can you tell us a little bit, we'll be visiting this topic of visitor management tomorrow, so we have a whole panel focused on that, but as a destination that is in the planning process from early, can you talk a little bit about some of the vision that you have for engaging the different stakeholders in a strategy for preventing destruction and overcrowding and maintaining your sense of place as you grow carefully?
Bueno, algo fundamental es trabajar en conjunto con los estamentos públicos. Ha sido una tarea difícil, en especial donde yo vivo, es donde existen las capillas de mármol, que han tenido un crecimiento en visitantes muy rápido en los últimos 5 años, lo cual ha prendido una luz roja. Y gracias a Dios hemos podido establecer y tenemos buenas relaciones como para poder encaminar acciones concretas con distintas instancias, con el municipio, con el PER, con Sernatur, en realidad con la Gobernación Marítima, con diferentes instancias para abordar este tema de manera conjunta y de manera transversal. Tenemos que definir algún plan de acción, un plan de manejo para abordar esta situación y de poder cuidar y de poder, digamos, evitar que se destruya, digamos, como tú dices, el destino. Entonces, básicamente habría que establecer unas metodologías a través de ordenanzas municipales y algunos sistemas de monitoreo que nos permita ver cuánta gente llega, tener más claro la cantidad de visitantes que llegan, porque en realidad si no tenemos data es muy difícil evaluar y tener, digamos, acciones que tomar y estrategias para poder abordar esta situación. Pero para eso también necesitamos que las políticas también regionales nos apoyen y estén acorde, digamos, al mismo discurso, que yo creo que va a ser así.
One more question, and that is about the idea of resident satisfaction. Measuring and maintaining resident satisfaction is a very, very important criterion in the destination criteria. Maintaining a positive quality of life for those who live in the destination as well as for visitors. And this is something that I know is a priority here in Aysen for you. And I'd like to just engage you a little, if you could tell us a little bit about your vision for how to maintain resident satisfaction and be sure, as you said, you're collecting data to make sure that that quality of life remains high for those that live here.
Bueno, es un tema. La verdad es que la calidad de vida de las personas a nosotros nos interesa mucho. En realidad, muchos de los que vivimos en esta región vinimos a vivir por tener una calidad de vida. Entonces, el turismo, si bien es cierto, es una herramienta que permite solventar la vida y poder tener una actividad económica, que complementa también otras actividades económicas en encadenamiento productivo con los campesinos, con la gente que vive en los interiores, en la cordillera, que anda a caballo. Tenemos muchos recursos también fósiles, tenemos la verdad que una infinidad de atractivos glaciares. Entonces, la calidad de vida es algo que no queremos perder. Por lo tanto, tenemos que cuidarla y de alguna manera generar, hay instancias de encuestas quizás en la comunidad y en todas las comunidades, porque en realidad todas las comunidades de la región son pequeñas y la llegada masiva de turistas puede llegar a ser perjudicial para esto. Entonces, por un lado es eso, y por otro también quizás medir los índices de felicidad, porque en realidad todos queremos ser felices y en el fondo también yo creo que es un indicador que si realmente las cosas están funcionando bien, estamos bien. Entonces es una manera en que podemos medir quizás la calidad de vida y si efectivamente el turismo no nos está afectando a los habitantes, como se ha visto y se habló ayer de que hay movimientos de antiturismo y no queremos que eso pase aquí. Queremos cuidar la calidad de vida de todas las personas para que también haya una calidad de experiencia de los visitantes, porque no sacamos nada con llenarnos de gente y en realidad no podemos atenderlos a todos, no encuentran dónde alojar, entonces es un tema.
Thank you. Now, I would like to entertain questions. If anyone has any questions for our panelists here about implementing the criteria or any comments about how you are implementing the GSTC criteria, now is one of the times you'll have the chance to speak with them otherwise, but any questions at all? Yes. Right here, I saw.
Muchas gracias. ¿Ustedes recomiendan que estos criterios se apliquen en destinos que no son sustentables para poner el tema de la sustentabilidad en la mesa, en la agenda política de los lugares? Por ejemplo, yo soy de Valparaíso, ¿ya? Y tenemos algunos problemas con la sustentabilidad y hoy día no hay mesa de sustentabilidad en la municipalidad, por ejemplo. Esa es la pregunta. Muchas gracias.
Okay, well, certainly the destinations criteria are for any destination at different levels of development and sustainability. And so, you know, we have a variety of destinations here, some who are just getting started on their sustainability journey and haven't really developed tourism to the extent that some other destinations have. And so, you know, the criteria are a useful tool to get a baseline, to understand where there are strains in development and processes that should be reformed to be able to take control back if development has, you know, become excessive, or to adjust in all different sorts of ways, for the least developed to more developed destinations, to understand where sustainability can sort of be clawed back if it's gotten out of hand. So yes, the criteria are really designed for any type of destination. And of course you have some destinations that are focusing on ecotourism, or natural places that people engage in nature, adventure tourism, ecotourism, and the criteria are designed to apply to those types of places, but also to apply to the largest, most developed cities in the world. So the way that the criteria were developed was very, very strategic so that they could be broadly worded enough that any type of destination, from the least developed to the most developed, from the smallest to the largest, could use them as a tool to be able to improve their operations wherever they fall. So no matter really what the case is, they can be a valuable tool for you to identify risk areas that have maybe even already gotten out of hand, that need to be controlled better, as well as to be used by destinations that are just beginning to develop and are looking to do that in the most responsible and careful way. So I recommend taking a look at them, and they could be very useful. Does anyone have any other comments on that?
Yo creo que realmente la sostenibilidad es un compromiso que se debe adquirir entre tantos stakeholders como sea posible. No es una meta, es un camino en el que decidimos caminarlo juntos, buscando una mejora continua. Y en todos los destinos hay áreas de oportunidad que tenemos que mejorar. En unos más, en otros menos. Pero realmente yo te puedo decir que es una ruta que te ayuda a alinear las voluntades, y eso es invaluable.
Anything further to add, any of the panelists? Well, thank you very much, and thank you especially to you all for sharing your experiences. We could continue this discussion for days. There's so many criteria to discuss, but I just really want to encourage everyone to connect with each other. This was one small opportunity to share lessons learned from your years of experience working with these criteria. Everyone, please help us revise the criteria when they are up for review shortly, so that we can address the challenges that all of your destinations are facing. Thank you, and look forward to connecting and continuing the discussion over the next couple of days.